You've mastered survival, and now it's time to master thriving. My name is Asha Sekhmet, and welcome to my channel. I am the founder of the Maji Community, where everything is about learning how to decolonize our relationships, our family practices, and really tap into our inner sovereignty so that we can build towards collective community and shift the vibration of planet Earth. And I just been going on this series of possession, right? Learning how to release possession and the reason that possession is so spiritual and how to overcome this as we talk about shifting to the new world. Now, I wanted to just share a little bit about the difference between when we're building relationships based on survival versus relationships that are based on our deep essence of our soul and connecting on the things that really matter to us, like community building. There's a huge difference, right? Have you experienced where if you're anything like me, when I was on jobs or I was in school, I was in some type of working capacity to get where I want to be, I typically was surrounded by people that I just probably didn't like, or I just did not feel connected to. Right? It feels something like the Hunger Games, right? I'm talking about from a perspective of how I feel the environment in a society that created the fishbowl of that environment and like the interactions and how people act, which is like, okay, if you think about a job, like climbing a corporate ladder, or if you're in a school setting, like someone, feeling in competition, having to be the best. And, it's just this frequency of like, it reminds me of the Hunger Games, right? And I can just remember just experiencing just a lot of jealousy along my journey, racial tension, genderism was a thing, right? I would say I experienced more racism than even genderism for me personally. That's why I don't really get into that. But ultimately, I was just experiencing this constant struggle for deep connections that I was really longing for. And that's why I constantly question this reality. Like, this has to be some type of stimulation. Like, this can't be real because I'm not really connecting with these people. And the only reason I'm in these vicinities with these people is because of like survival, rather paying bills or working capacity. It's nothing that's based on what was actually cultivated in me from like a family and community and cultural perspective. Like if I could just be with and around people that I share the same values and cultures and beliefs with, that would be a community. And so I was just trying to figure out the tools on how to get there, because I don't like being in spaces with people I don't like and that I don't share the same values with. It could be a good experience to understand, right, that there's different communities that exist and that there's different human beings and different backgrounds that exist, and that you just need to respect, the differences. But that was about it. I feel like that was like the grand lesson in experiencing that on my journey. However, what is the next stage when you get past survival, right? We're talking about thriving. So in a world in which we're thriving in our community, it means that we're interdependent on each other, right? We're in a self-sustaining community. And these are people who are working collectively to build towards a common goal and can reap the benefits of what they're building together. I mean, that's very beautiful. And that's really what I'm longing for. So we connect this to the spirit of possession. When we're in this fishbowl of this society that creates these constructs where the divide and conquer and competition, race, right? Racism, right, is race, like Dr. Claude Anderson would describe, right? It's real. When we talk about economics, it is a fallacy. And it is just not the truth that everyone is just like the same, like one human race. It's just not one human race thing. Is just not true, because when we look at in America, there would not be a separation of economics and opportunities when it comes to Black people in particular And that is the main thing, right? So there's a separation there. And then there's other, of course, marginalized groups when you get closer to white, when you bring the breakdown of how the social class interfaces with racism, right? So that's a fallacy, right? We know that that's just, and if you are a person of African descent who lives in America and do your work, right, you study the scholarship of our ancestors, like the ISIS papers, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, to understand what racism really is, and Dr. Claude Anderson, like I mentioned, Dr. John Henry Clark, right, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakimin. When we start to study, what the scholars have shared with us, we understand, okay, this is some fishbowl of a society to put me at an advantage and my family at an advantage, at a disadvantage. So if that's the case, then I have to go deeper. The only thing that's really going to get me out here is tapping into the part of me that can transcend this, right? Because where we're talking about thriving, right? So for me, it was tapping into understanding these deeper principles of overcoming possession, right? Because if you're in these societies that's creating this, they're also creating these parasitic thought process of individualism, divide and conquer, and possession, jealousy, competition. Those frequencies exist here. Fear, right? So now we put this over into relationships, because if this is how we're interacting in our workspace, then other human activities is going to be impacted by that, right? So we talk about our relationships. So this also affects us with attachment issues and fear and control. All of these ultimately is contributing to what is feeding our ego. So this is the dysfunctional part of who we are. I really like how my husband words what the ego is, which is edging God out. So our ego is the construct of the personality of who we are that was created by our environment. That's what the ego is, right? But then we have another side of who we are, that is the living, breathing soul. So when we develop relationships based on this ego persona, possession is attached to that, because we were taught, a lot of people in the modern Western world were taught love as possession, right? These concepts of putting in categories and owning, in the concept of ownership, and even beyond that, attachment styles, right? Attachment styles to your relationship that is not healthy, right? Where we're not truly learning how to have that love internally, right? The things that we're searching for, and that's making us be possessive in a relationship. We need to find those internally, right? We weren't given those. A lot of people were not given those tools in their family to have that internally. So those relationship patterns that you've seen in your family growing up, you will play those relationship patterns out in your real relationships as an adult until you heal those generational curses. That's really how it works. And possession is a huge one, because possession also comes from scarcity. So if you have a family that did live on survival, and even if not even survival, just that you were a family that you experienced some type of abandonment or some type of breakdown in a 2-parent household, and having a connection with your grandparents, and there is a concept of unity and togetherness with your family. If there was some type of separatism or breakdown in that, rather you have a form of dysfunctional poly where blended families, right? Parents are separated. Now you have step parents, things of that sort. Possession as love could be taught to you, because there's no language or information being taught to you about how to operate in an alternative family practice that's outside of a broken family, where people are, one couple is together, they separate, and then maybe get with other people. And that's not monogamy. That's certainly not monogamy. That's just people who are taught one relationship model, and when reality shows that didn't that this is not operating or it didn't work, meaning you be with one person until you die, which is true monogamy. When that gets broken down and then you separate and things like that, now we're getting into forms of blended marriages. That's poly. So, but because there's not a language for it, right, in a modern Western world, formal education on how this works, that's what we do with the Maji community. This is my purpose. I'm breaking it down on what it is. The truth is that when you have a breakdown of relationship models like that, and now it's these separate relationships, blended family, dysfunctional poly, right? This is how you create generations of human beings and people in your family who interpret possession as love because they have not been born with the wholesomeness of a love of a community backing them from the moment they were born. So if you have that breakdown and you experience some type of abandonment, you are going to interpret possession as love in a relationship because it's this huge missing piece spiritually that you didn't get with growing into a real community, right? So when we have these abandonment issues and we have, relationship trauma that has been passed down to us, seeing our parent dynamics, these things really follow us until we heal them. And we're not fully aware of these spiritual underlying issues in our relationships that continue to follow us. We're not fully aware of it until we do the deeper inner work and get the tools to navigate that, which you need something to replace it. And that is what I am here to offer in the Divine Community Healing Workshop. That's going to be this Wednesday, March the 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to learn tools to release possession, heal the heart, and work towards sovereign community. The workshop comes with a Divine Community Workbook, 20% off the Divine Community ebook, and reflective group exercises so that we can really break down what family relationship practices have been passed down to me that is causing me pain and conflict and fear in my relationships. Right? We need to heal that. We need to identify that. And so we're going to work through that together. And the power of community is that you don't have to heal alone, right? You can go much, much more faster in healing when you have a community that is backing you with healing, right? Healing is not an isolated phenomenon. That's why I personally feel in the Black community as well, it's just a lot of people who will say that they've been healing forever or whatever, because you're just by yourself. We're not. And when I say community, understand, I mean something sovereign. I'm not talking about having a social group within an organized system. That's not a community. Those are social groups. So definitely come to the Divine Community Healing Workshop so that you can be given the tools so that you are prepared. We have the tools that can teach you how to get rid of that, right? The spirit of possession can be passed down generationally. So we could give you the tools on how to finally break that generational curse so that you are consciously building partnership, so that you are in fulfilling relationships, so that you are integrating your relationships that are working towards the betterment of your bloodline and continuing on family, community, culture. You can register for the Divine Community Healing Workshop on my website, ashasekhmet.com/store. And I'm just really excited to, build out with you guys and continue on this discussion and give you the tools so that we are prepared. Definitely, if you're looking for a spiritual consultation with me, you can schedule that on my website as well. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all in the next video.